Hey folks, welcome back to our channel. My name is Nigel and this is my dad, Roger. If you're just joining our channel here, if you're not subscribed, and in our last video that we did on this van behind me, this Nissan NV400, is we were talking about how do you pick a good van. So if you're in the market for finding a van to build out and to convert into a camper, then that video would be super helpful. It'll be down below. We'll put a link to that video down below. But in this video, what we're going to be talking about is, and showing you, is what you need to do to prepare your van. So a lot of the time when you buy a van like this one, it'll have a bulkhead in here at the front. It'll have some sort of plywood paneling or something just to protect the metalwork and that, but pretty much when you get a van like this that's been used for something else, unless you buy a van brand new from a manufacturer, which most of us are not going to do. This van is a 6-year-old van, has a reasonably high mileage, but it was owned by a mattress company, funny enough, so it wouldn't have been carrying heavy loads, just bulky things, but they did a fair mileage in that 6 years, so it's got around just under 200,000 miles, which may sound like a lot, but these engines will do 500,000 miles before they need to be reconditioned and replaced. So there's some good life in this. And once you've got a camper van and once you've built it out as a van, the likelihood is, and even if you are living in it full time, but if you're just holidaying in it, doing weekend trips, things like that, the likelihood is that you're really not going to do much more than 10,000 miles a year. And if you do that, even if you did it for 15 years, you wouldn't even get to the end of the life of the engine, as long as you looked after it, serviced it every year, things like that. So yeah, there's a lot of life left in these sort of vans. Obviously, don't be buying a van that has like 400,000 miles on the clock, because there's not much life left in that engine. But we're pretty happy with the condition of this engine, how it looks, all of that sort of stuff. We talked a little bit about it in the last video, but what we're going to do now is to crack on with getting it ready to actually start doing what we need to do. So one of the things that we're going to be doing over the next couple of days, which we'll make a separate video about, is actually installing windows. So we're going to be putting a window on that side there, and then a window here on the door, full size. It'll pretty much be the full width of the door, and that whole panel there that you can see behind me, a whole window there, and then we're also going to be putting another couple of windows on the back panels as well. So 4 windows and a skylight. So a lot of work to do just before we even get to the point where we can talk about insulation and all of those sort of things. But the first thing is to get all of the plywood paneling that they've got in here, look at what everything looks like, assess if there's any rust that needs attention. This van's in pretty good nick as far as rust is concerned, so I don't think there's anything needed on that, but we're going to get it all off, assess everything, see what we need to do, and then start planning kind of a layout, and also how we're going to attack the insulation and paneling and all that sort of stuff. So let's get after it. And so there we have it. So we've got the first stage of getting this thing ready to really start building it out done. And yeah, there's still a way to go, so we still need to prepare the floor here to actually insulate and put a subfloor in here. So one of the things is going to be to take this back bit of trim off the bumper here and just really clean it all down, probably even with a sponge and a bucket of hot water or something along those lines. But you want to really clean all the bits of dirt in the corners and stuff. You want that out, because what happens is all that dust and dirt and sand and stuff that's collected as it's been used as a work van, if you get any moisture in here, all of that moisture will collect in that sand and dirt, and it'll hold it, and that's what then causes rust, is when that starts eating at the metal. It's the same way when you go through mud or somewhere dirty with the undercarriage of your car. You spray that down and don't just leave the mud just cake there sitting, because it'll rot away at the metalwork underneath there. So okay, so I'm just going to take you through a few things here. So this van on the whole is in very good condition, even though it was a work van before we got it, but as you can see, there was quite a lot of dust and dirt and stuff collected in the bottom underneath the plywood floor that they had in here. And they also attached the plywood floor just straight through the main metal floor of the van here, just with self-tapping screws. So there are little holes like this all over, which will need attention, so we'll have to clean those out, get rid of some of the rust, and then paint them so that they stop rusting, and then seal them off somehow, because you can see daylight through some of them. So obviously we don't want holes just sitting there in the bottom of the van, and it's also a place that rust can start and then carry on corroding. We've taken most of the dirt out, but there are still a few places like this over here at the front right where there is quite a bit of dirt still, so we'll have to come after this with probably a sponge with some soapy hot water or something like that to really clean it down, because you want it, ideally you want it pretty much spotless, none of this sort of dirt and stuff in the corners. So you can see right in the corners there, that's really not what you want, because that's an opportunity for that stuff to hold moisture and then to start rotting away at the metalwork, which is what you want to avoid. We'll also remove all of these tie down points as well, because they're necessary. When we put down a subfloor, these are just going to be covered up anyway, so we'll pull these up, and probably I'll just keep them in my workshop to use for other projects, because they are quite nice. But yeah, you basically want to take this back to nothing on this floor. And here is a good example of one of the holes from the screw that was holding it down, where it's rusted around the hole. So we're going to be wanting to clean that up nicely, get after it with a wire brush on the end of a drill, and clean it up, and then paint it, probably with some red oxide primer or something along those lines. And also these little points that you can see here on the bodywork where it's worn the paint, the white paint away, we'll paint onto those as well. We'll clean up around there and paint those when we clean this all up, because that's also a point where it could rust, so we'd rather cover that metal and make sure that everything's treated. And up on the top, it's all pretty much sound. There's not many issues that we can see. A few spots here and there where there's little bits of surface rust, but we'll get after those again and tidy them up, paint them with some red oxide primer or something along those lines, and then we'll be good to go. We can frame it out, insulate, and then we can start with the build. We are looking at probably using spray foam on these walls for a number of reasons. Having done a lot of work in the past with that foam, we know that it'll offer a sound deadening, and also it'll be a really good insulation property, and it's waterproof as well, so it'll offer a good moisture barrier as well. So all in all, that's the benefits that it brings, and we're going to go for that. Yeah, thanks for watching. We're going to be doing step by step, lots of videos, lots of detail around the build out of this van. So next step is going to be to cut holes in the van, put windows and a skylight in. But yeah, if you're not subscribed already, then hit the subscribe button and follow as we build out a camper in this van. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Cheers.